Chapter 5: Ownership and Structural Forms of Business Enterprise.
Good day, ma'am. I am Jeneriel Cagas, a BSHM 2B. For today's presentation, I will be present at Chapter 5, Types of Ownership in Business.
Types of ownership in business. Ownership is a legal term. Most commonly, it means the legal title to a thing or control over the thing owned, the right of possession and disposal. As applied to business enterprise, the term ownership means title to and possession of the assets of the enterprise, the power to determine the policies of the operation, and the right to receive and dispose of the proceeds. Business enterprise, from the point of view of ownership, fall into three broad classifications, and these are private ownership, public ownership, and mixed ownership. Private ownership means when an enterprise is so organized that private individuals exercise and enjoy the rights and privileges of an owner in their own interest, the ownership is said to be private. Public ownership means when the organization of the enterprise is effected and management is controlled by political bodies as a municipal, provincial, or national government, or by any instrumentality created by them. We have public ownership. And mixed ownership means mixed ownership exists when the elements of ownership are divided such that private persons and public bodies share in the operation of the same enterprise. Forms of private ownership. Privately owned industrial enterprise may take 5 basic forms. These are individual or single or sole proprietorship, partnership, cooperative organization, corporation, and corporate combination. Any business enterprise may be organized according to any of the above-mentioned forms. The choice, however, depends upon a careful consideration of a number of factors, among which are the following: A. The nature and size of the business to be started. B. The capital required and the means of procuring it. C. The length of the time that enterprise is expected to operate. D. The technical conditions affecting the enterprise. A. The types of products to be manufactured. F. The method and volume of production. And G. The kind of markets. The individual or single proprietorship. Where ownership is vested in one person, we have a single proprietorship.
This type of ownership is compact, necessitates little in the way of cash, and may be easily formed by one guy. The sole proprietorship or individual enterprise is the earliest type of ownership that is currently understood. The sole proprietor advertises the firm, gathers the resources and buildings, workers, and equipment, and conducts business directly. He is the only owner of the company. Numerous businesses begin as sole proprietorship. Later, when the firm succeeds and the owner's resources improve, they grow into greater ships.
Advantages of single proprietorship. This form of private ownership offers certain advantages such as: Number 1, it is easy to start and to terminate. Anyone who could act for himself may start a business. All that he has to do is to secure facilities such as supplies, goods, equipment, and quarters before he opens the door of his business. There is no special body or laws relating to individual proprietorship as is the case of other forms. 2. Control or management lies entirely in the hands of the owner.
The knowledge that he owns and controls the proprietorships gives him a sense of pride and satisfaction in his work and achievement. The independence he enjoys gives him a sense of pleasure and security.
3. Only a small amount of capital is required in starting.
With the exception, perhaps of a small license fee and compliance with the fees regulations, he could open the business upon his own initiative.
4. Profits belong entirely to the owner.
The owner has every motive to exert his utmost efforts to the enterprise. The profit incentive is still the strongest factor that impels people to succeed in business. The advantage is a significant one.
And lastly, 5. high credit standing.
Anyone who extends credit to a business owned by one person may look beyond the value of the firm to the private resources of the owner.
Disadvantage of single proprietorship. There are also certain shortcomings of this form of ownership. Among them are 1. Limited judgment and wisdom.
As a business expands, the multiplicity and complexity of functions may prove too much for any one single person to handle.
2. Limited amount of capital.
Frequently, the proprietorship meets difficulty in securing the necessary amount of capital for a large-scale enterprise. Unless the proprietor has large resources of his own, this proves a distinct disadvantage. The owner's only available sources of financing are his own restricted personal assets and credit.
3. Unlimited liability.
When one or more people are responsible for the tax obligations and debts of their business, it differs significantly from a limited liability company in this aspect. The latter is especially intended to protect particular LCC members from risk.
4. Difficulties of management.
Ordinarily, a sole proprietorship is a small business. The owner assumes the responsibility for such diverse tasks are purchasing, merchandising, extending credit, financing, employing personnel, and so forth. For example, a retail store with a large volume of business went into bankruptcy because the owner was so generous with extension of credit and was so poorly qualified to collect accounts that finally there was not sufficient money left to pay current bills. In spite of its evident shortcomings, the single proprietorship form of ownership is still the most common in the Philippines.
The registration of new enterprises with the Bureau of Commerce and the Securities and Exchange Commission shows the following figures. Based on the book that I can see are the figures present only part of the complete story. There are thousands upon thousands of single proprietorships that never register with the Bureau of Commerce. A little girl who opens up a halo-halo or refreshment stand in the barrio is a single proprietor. The valet vendor selling his wares is a single proprietor who, with industry and perseverance, may be well on his way towards becoming a tycoon of business in the future. The significance of the single proprietorship form of ownership cannot be stressed strongly enough. Partnership. As a business expands and develops, the inherent limitations and disadvantages of a single proprietorship led to the development of other forms of ownership. Article 1967 of the Civil Code defines a partnership as an organization where two or more persons bind themselves to contribute money, property, or industry to a common fund with the intention of dividing the profits among themselves. Partnerships may be classified as to object or as to liability. As to object, a partnership is either universal or particular.
Property is one where the partners contribute all their property into a common fund with the intention of dividing it, as well as its profits among themselves. Profits comprises all that the partners may acquire through their industry or efforts.
As to liability, Philippine law recognizes two forms of partnerships, and so far as liability is concerned, these are the general partnership and the limited or special partnership. The general partnership. The partnership as such does not possess a legal identity separate from the partners who form it. Agreement and control of a partnership. The partnership organization is formed as easily as that of a single proprietorship. It is, however, preferable that the partnership agreement should be drawn up in writing by a reliable attorney and signed by every one of the partners in order to remove the possibility of misunderstanding.
In other words, equal voice in the management, equal shares in profit or losses.
If two partners, therefore, agree to share profits and losses in the proportion of 2 to 1, That agreement should be in writing, since the law says that all profits and losses of the business shall be shared equally by the partners unless they have agreed otherwise.
Again, if the partners decide to share profits at a 2-to-1 ratio and losses at a 2-to-2 ratio, that is possible, but it should be in the partnership agreement. Otherwise, the sharing is equal. If the agreement is to share profits 2-to-2 and nothing is said about losses, then losses would be shared in the same proportions as profits.
If all the partners work in harmony and there is an amicable pooling together of ability, skill, efforts, and interest, the partnership can operate successfully. But with control divided, there will be disagreement and friction between the partners, especially if someone tries to take advantage over the other partners. In such a case, the partnership is bound to fail.
In a partnership, the personal elements of the partners play an important role. It is not enough that partner has the required money, experience, and knowledge. Equally important are the personal qualifications such as honesty and reliability, industry, and technical knowledge.
Advantages of partnership. Several advantages of a partnership over the single proprietorship are: 1. It could be as easily formed as the single proprietorship.
Its formation could either be in writing or oral.
2. There are more persons to conduct the business and to handle its problem.
The business, therefore, can be operated on a larger scale. Gains are likely greater and risks shared among a greater number of persons.
3. A partnership has access to greater or better credit facilities.
When 2 or more partners assume unlimited liability for the obligations of the partnership, banks and credit institutions are willing to lend and money.
4. The combined ability and resources of partners are a source of length.
There is a combined judgment of the partners for better solution of the business problems.
5. Retention of valuable employers.
It also provides the same opportunity to existing partnerships, although new articles of partnership are necessary.
Disadvantages of partnership. The advantages of partnerships are partly offset, however, by several serious disadvantages. Among them are the following: 1. Unlimited liability of partners.
Each partner is liable to creditors for the whole indebtedness of the firm, not merely for his proportionate share in the business.
2. Disagreement between partners often lead to delay and difficulties which could endanger the enterprise.
Thus, indecision, delays, compromise action, and other shortcomings of a many-membered top management body may occur in a partnership of many partners.
3. Easy dissolution.
In substance, a new partnership is created by mere transfer or part or whole of a partner's interest to another person.
4. Frozen investment.
It is almost axiomatic that it is easy to invest in a partnership and difficult to withdraw these funds.
Example of the limited partnership.
Sort of partnership is structure that restricts some participant personal liability. In general partnerships, each partner is still personally responsible for the partnership's debts and responsibilities.
Advantages of limited partnership. The limited partnership has the following advantages. 1. There is a single direction of management. Thus, there is unity and prompt action. And 2. The limited liability of special or limited partners serves as good endorsement of investments, resulting in larger amount of capital to carry on the business of the partnership. Disadvantages of limited partnership. As there are advantages, there are also disadvantages. Among them are: 1. Only with fraud exists or when there are clear violations of the partnership agreement can the special partner apply for remedial action. And 2, there is the possibility of collusion among the general partners to defraud the creditors and the limited or special partners. Kinds of partners. The evolution of the partnership organization has led to different kinds of partners, among whom are 1. General partner, earlier referred to. 2. Limited partner, earlier referred to. 3. Capitalist partner, who contributes money or property to the organization. 4. Industrial partner, who contributes his services, talents, skills, and abilities but not property. 5. Managing partner, who administers the operations and manage the business directly. 6. Liquidating partner, who handles the affairs or resolution of the business. 7. Ostensible partner, who publicly makes known his connections with a partnership. 8. Secret partner, whose identity is not publicly made known, unlike the ostensible partner. 9. Silent partner, who is not given a voice in management. 10. Dormant partner, who is both secret and silent. And 11. Nominal partner, who is no partner at all because the firm continues using his name for business or prestige purposes only. Senior and junior partners. A general partner who has a substantial investment in the firm, who receives a relatively larger percentage of the profits, and who, by virtue of age and years of association with the firm, assumes a major role in the management, is a senior partner. The cooperative organization. A cooperative association has some elements of large partnership and also many features of a corporation, although it is distinct from both.
From the point of view of ownership, a cooperative is a business organization which is owned by the people it serves. Owners are also customers.
Kinds of cooperative organization. Cooperative organizations fall under 4 general classification, and these are: the Consumers Cooperative, a company that is democratically run, owned by its customers, and tries to meet their needs and desires. Such cooperatives function as a sort of mutual aid inside the market system, independently of the state, and are focused on providing services rather than financial gain. The Producers Cooperative, produced by producers who also own and run the business. To improve marketing opportunities and production efficiency, producers can choose to collaborate or operate independently. They are set up to process, sell, and deliver their own goods. The Marketing Cooperative, a company established by farmers that helps them sell their goods together. It enables producers to work together to do tasks that they couldn't complete separately. The Financing Cooperative, a particular financial establishment that is run and owned by its member. A financial cooperative's mission is to represent a cohesive group in providing traditional banking services. Principles of cooperatives. Pursuant to Section 3 of the Presidential Decree No. 175, strengthening the cooperative movement of President Marcos, it states, a cooperative shall be governed by the following principles. A. Open membership. Membership is an cooperative should be voluntary and available without artificial restriction or any social, political, racial, or religious discrimination to all persons who can make use of its services and are willing to accept the responsibility of membership. B. Democratic control. In primary cooperatives, irrespective of the number of shares owned, each member can only cast one vote in deciding upon the affairs of the cooperative. C. Limited interest to capital. Share capital shall earn only limited interest. The maximum rate of interest to be established by the Department of Local Government and Community Development from time to time. D. Patronage refund. Net income after the interest on capital has been paid shall be redistributed among the members in proportion to their patronage. Power of cooperatives. Cooperatives shall have the following powers, and these are: A. to exercise the same rights and privileges given to person, partnerships, and corporation provided under existing laws. B. To establish and operate business enterprises of all kinds as their needs, dictates, and their capabilities allow, subject to the provision of existing laws. C. To establish rural banks under the Rural Bank Act and or to purchase government held preferred shares or rural banks which may be converted to voting common stocks under the rules and regulations to be promulgated by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank and the Agrarian Reform Fund Commission. D. To enjoy all the privileges and incentives granted by the NACIDA Act and those granted by all government agencies to business organization under existing laws, provided that all requirements are met. A. To petition the government to expropriate urban or rural lands for agricultural production, cottage industry, business, or housing purposes, and F. To own and dispose of property, to enter into contract, to sue or be sued, and to do and perform such other acts as may be necessary in the pursuit of its objectives. Privileges of cooperatives. Cooperatives shall enjoy the following privileges, and these are: exemption from income taxes and sales taxes provided that substantial portion of the net income of the cooperative is returned to members in the form of interest and or patronage refund, provided further that for income tax purposes, non-agricultural cooperatives shall be exempt for a period of 5 years and agricultural cooperatives for a period of 10 years, reckoned from the date of registration with the Department of Local Government and Community Development, provided finally that the taxable income shall mean that portion of the cooperative's income after deducting the interest paid to members and patronage refunds. B. In areas where appropriate cooperatives exist, the preferential right to supply rice, corn and other grains, fish and other marine products, meat, eggs, milk, vegetables, tobacco, and other agricultural commodities produced by members of the cooperatives concerned to state agencies administering price stabilization program, and C. In appropriate cases, exemption from the application of the minimum wage law upon the recommendation of the Bureau of Cooperatives Development, subject to the approval of the Secretary of Labor. Corporations. A corporation is an artificial being created by operation of law having the right of succession and the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence.
For instance, the corporate firm outrank the non-corporate form by all yardstick as to number, income, business assets, wage earners, or etc.
Nature and characteristics of a corporation. The corporate form of ownership possesses characteristics which make it adaptable to large-scale enterprise. The characteristics that may be mentioned are: 1. It is an artificial business unit and its creation is through the process of law.
It is an artificial person, not a natural one, and has an actual legal existence entirely separate from its owners or managers, who may die or change while the corporation continues its separate existence.
2. The basic structure of a corporation is simple.
Because of its structure, a corporation operates through delegated authority and responsibility.
3. The corporation organization is of wide scope.
The corporation stands for group activity and combined investment of the members.
4. The existence of a corporation is practically permanent by operation of law.
Under Philippine law, the usual maximum period is 50 years and most corporations ask for this maximum period of existence.
5. The function of corporation is public.
The assumption is that the existence of a corporation is for the benefits of the public or society. While the ownership and purpose may be for private profit, it is invested with certain public responsibilities to a greater extent than an individual proprietorship or partnership.
Kind of private corporation. A private corporation may be of two kinds, namely the stock corporation and the non-stock corporation. Classes of capital stock. Although there are many variations of stock ownership, they are usually grouped into two basic classes. 1. The common stock, and 2. The preferred stock. The common stock, according to the laws governing the formation of a corporation, the right of ownership and the active control is vested in the owners of the common stock. The par value is the amount printed on the stock certificate. A corporation may elect to issue common stock with an assigned face value or without an assigned face value stock. The par value of a common stock, for instance, may be any amount: 5 pesos, 10 pesos, 25 pesos, 50 pesos, and 100 pesos being common values. Par values of common stock are important in determining the payments of dividends. The par value of stock may not represent its true market value. It may be overstated. A corporation to appear solvent or prosperous may issue 10,000 pesos worth of stocks for property worth only 7,000. On the other hand, a corporation which has been in existence for 20 years and which has prospered greatly may still carry stocks with a par value of 100 pesos when these same stocks could easily sell for 1,000 pesos each in the market.
For instance, the original number of par stock may have sold for 60 pesos and yet the present earnings will attract buyers at only 40 pesos per share. Since money is needed, the company can sell the stock at 40 pesos, which it could values of as if it were per value stock.
The preferred stock, as its name implies, gives the owner special protection or advantages over the common stockholders.
For example, the preferred stock has priority in the distribution of the assets. There are several classifications of preferred stock, namely preferred as to dividends, preferred as to assets in case of dissolution, preferred as to both dividends and assets, cumulative preferred, callables, and convertible.
An individual stock may be a combination of several of these features. In case, however, the corporation charter is silent on a particular feature, the usual legal status of preferred stock is that it is cumulative as to dividends, non-participating, and possesses voting power. Corporate ownership and control. The ultimate control of the corporation rests in the hands of the stockholders. They exercise control through the voting power at regular or special meetings by electing the board of directors and passing upon board policies and other pays of business.
This is because stockholders who are the owners are too numerous, often too disinterested, and meet too infrequently to exercise control. Moreover, it is the day-to-day conduct of the corporate business that is the most effective exercise of control, and this is the function of management. It is not correct, however, to completely minimize the role of the stockholder in the management of a corporation. Thus, the weakness of the stockholders in the exercise of the powers of management is generally due to their great number, the disinterest of most of them, and the impractical nature of their participating in the daily affairs of the business. Active management is left to the board of directors and the executive officers.
The law says that the board of directors exercise all corporate powers, conducts all business, and controls all properties of a corporation. The scope of its powers are therefore quite revealing.
The executive officers include the president or general manager and the heads of such departments as sales, manufacturing, finance, personnel, and the like.
Advantages of the corporation. The The advantages of a corporations over the other forms of ownership may be classified into two categories, namely the organizational and the operational advantages. The organizational advantages are the follows. S of acquiring large amount of capital. No other form of ownership could as easily gather the huge amounts needed for modern business establishments. Flexible ownership. Shares of stock are transferable without affecting the company's status or operation. Unlike in the case of partnership, owners can get out of a business with greater facility. 3. Limited liability of stockholders. This induces investors to participate more freely as they risk only the funds they invest in the company. 4. More or less permanent existence. The stock simply passes to other hands while the corporation continues in its operation. 5. Legal entity. A corporation can sue and be sued, make contracts, and secure title to property in its own name. The operational advantages are the following. 1. The corporation offers an excellent mechanism for mobilizing the large capital needed for modern industrial operations. In the operations of a business concern, this mechanism is of extreme ownership. 2. It permits extended specialization in management, plant and equipment, factory organization, labor and marketing. Company officials are generally more willing to join it because of its impersonal ownership. Reasons for the corporation's eminent advantages. Although, like other forms of economic organization, the corporation is subject to corrupt use, inefficiency, and stagnation. Nevertheless, these conditions are unlikely to continue longer in a corporation because it must meet a series of powerful challenges to its vitality. 1. The principles of organization and management earlier studied grow out of corporate experience and are part of corporate practice.
The organizational and management ideas that were previously covered emerged from business experience and are now part of corporate practice.
2. It has a direct responsibility to investors who expect and demand concrete results.
Investors typically have harsh words for management and only keep quiet when they are happy with the company's performance.
3. The corporation must compete actively for more capital, land, raw materials, trained managers, and labor for efficiency in operation and for wider markets.
The actions of the nation's firm fully explore the competitive dynamics of free enterprise.
4. Thus, the public is deeply concerned about the operations of such corporation like Meralco or the Philippine Long-Distance Telephone Company, or even in establishments like P&G, Philippine Manufacturing Company, or the Philippine Refining Company, or any of the private commercial banks. Disadvantages of corporate ownership. 1. Organizational expense. Because of the legal nature of a corporation, it is usually advisable to engage a lawyer to assist in the organization procedures. 2. Government restrictions and reports. All types of annual and special reports which frequently become burdensome and costly to the corporation must be prepared. 3. Lack of personal interest can be brought on by issues with focus, families, emotions, learning challenges, and many other things. Not everything is about having fun all the time. Sometimes it's simply plain old boring. 4. Lack of secrecy. According to regulatory requirements, a corporation must provide the Registrar of Companies and financial institutions with a variety of declarations. This reduces commercial concealment. The corporate combination. Any binding share exchange, merger, or consolidation in which the common stock is exchanged for cash, securities, or other assets. Among the corporate combinations that may be mentioned are the merger and the trust. The merger, sometimes called integration. Merger means the union effected by the absorbing of one or more existing corporations by another which survives and continues the combined business. In a merger, there is no new business unit. The absorbing corporation remains the same single although larger corporation.
For instance, when the San Miguel Beer Brewery Corporation decided to buy out its competition in the beer distillery business, a merger was affected.
A merger of corporations having similar functions, a San Miguel Corporation and another beer corporation, is known as horizontal merger. If a company absorbs the sources of its raw materials or the corporations which market its products, we have a vertical merger. The trust. The trust as a form of business organization had its origin in a principle of law originally developed for safeguarding the property of minors and other persons not able or willing to administer their own affairs. The interest of the participants is protected by the trust certificates, which are transferable in the same way as shares of stock. Thus, the trust serves as a device for obtaining two valuable features, namely 1. The delegated management and 2. Transferability of shares. The liability of the participants is strictly limited to the amount of their investment. There are different forms of trust, namely 1. The simple or dry trust, usually practiced in the management of trust property, where the trustees are given full authority in the control and management of the business. 2. The active trust, the form usually used in the conduct of business, where the powers of the trustees are outlined in detailed form in the trust agreement. And 3. The investment trust, where it is not the administration of enterprise but the pooling of funds by investors in order to obtain in diversification of risk by holding the securities of a large number of enterprise which is involved. Forms of public ownership. Public welfare and necessity are the chief reasons for the establishment of publicly owned enterprises by government, although less worthy motives such as jobs for political party supporters play a part.
Many public enterprises are operated very much unlike private enterprises and expect to realize a profit from their activities. If profits are realized, they will be devoted to public rather than private interest.
Government activities have been conducted mainly through political agencies and instrumentalities.
Even when they are economics in substance, there is a strong tendency to employ political means, laws, regulations, and recognized departments of the government.
The public corporation, a company whose shares are traded freely on a stock exchange. How public corporation is promoted. The active promoters are the political administrations and the recognized departments of government. How public corporation is organized. A public corporation is presented in the form of legislative bills. Proposals are therefore laid before the law-making body. How public corporation is operated. The people are the stockholders acting through their legislative representatives. In the United States, some of the random examples of public corporations formed and operated in the above described way that may be mentioned are the Federal Insurance Corporation, Emergency Fleet Corporation, and the Defense Plant Corporation. In the Philippines, corollary examples that may be mentioned are the Manila Railroad Company, Cebu Portland Cement Company, and the other public corporations under the Office of Economic Coordination. The non-incorporated public enterprises. The other principal form of public ownership enterprise is the non-incorporated enterprise. Then, reasons for gov to engage in business. The main reasons to the government's engagement in business activities are for the promotion of public welfare and out of necessity. When there is an adequate amount of goods provided by the private sector, the government need not enter into such industries. Difference between partnership and corporation. A corporation is an artificial business unit and its creation through the process of law, while A partnership is a business relationship between two or more persons competent to make contracts to engage in a business activity.
In contrast to a corporation, which is founded according to national statutes, it can be formed just as readily as a sole proprietorship. A corporation is a separate person or entity with specific legal rights, as opposed to a partnership, which is identical to the people who own it. It exists legally independently of its owners and managed.
B. The corporation operates through delegated authority and responsibility. The owners, who are the stockholders, usually do not take active participation in its day-to-day operation and management.
Executives appointed to operate the body in question perform these duties, while the board of directors, who are chosen by members, formulates the organization's policies. On the other hand, a partnership is managed by the partners, who in most cases are also in charge of the active management of the business. They themselves formulate the decisions and operate the business.
C. The corporate organization is of a wider scope since it results out of the combined resources of the members.
In a partnership, the partners contribute enough to money to start a firm with the understanding that they will split the assets and earnings and establish the business with particular requirements as to its nature. Resources and efforts are only combined with those of the partners.
D. The existence of a corporation is practically permanent by of operations of law. The lifespan of a corporation is determined and limited by law subject to renewal. It is, however, terminated by forfeiture of rights through misuse, non-use, non-performance of obligations to the state. E. The existence of corporation is assumed to be for the public welfare or benefit, although it is for private profit. It is invested with certain public responsibilities. This is so since it affects more people as a result of its wider scope of operations at a greater extent than a partnership. So, what are the functions of the board of directors of a corporation? Of the executives? Compare and give the relationships of directional and executive functions. Okay. A board of directors is legally created by the papers of incorporation of a corporation, and by them it is given the authority to exercise the powers of a corporation, limited by any conditions set forth in the corporation's bylaws. In many instances, the stockholders actually confirm or appraise members of the board depending upon the interest, objective, and powers of the individual stockholders. In many instances, the development of major policies and the formulation of a basic philosophy of action are performed by the board of directors. What portion used to decrease corporate indebtedness and what portion to be plowed back into the corporation's operations are important questions decided by the board. The executive officers are the delegates of the board of directors, since the implementation of the policies formulated by the board should be undertaken by the executives.
Executives are directly employed by the company's employees and are in charge of the active management of the company. Through the efforts of others, executive actions start the physical acts required to achieve the goal. They provide the necessary energy as the members are being controlled and activated, as well as the full impact of executory duties.